Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. I'd like to first acknowledge the presence of our Division Director, Camille Mary, and also any other members of the Division Council who are present for this afternoon's training. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of our facilitator, Distinguished Toastmaster, Corville Hylton. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order and invite our Division Club Growth Director, Assistant Club Growth Director, Joshua Edwards, to lead us in an invocation.
Point of order, I'm not seeing Toastmaster Joshua on. Can we get someone else to pray?
Heavenly Father, we give you praise. We thank you for yet another day. We realize and understand that we cannot do this without you, but with you, we are able to come together on this virtual lectern for our impactful evaluations workshop. Father, we give you all the praise, the honor, and the glory. We thank you, Lord, that this afternoon our technology would work, the internets would be stable, that we're able to go leaving this session more with an impact, knowing how to do evaluations at the end of this meeting. We ask you to bless each and every one that's on this call this evening. We ask you to open our ears that we're able to listen and we're able to understand what is being said. We thank you and we give you praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much, LM Christine Stapleton, for stepping in and bringing the invocation. At this time, I'd like to ask for the introduction of our Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster and PRM of Division E, Sherry Ann Stapleton.
Toastmaster Michelle is a charter member of the Anguilla Toastmasters Club and a dual member of the Tropical Eloquence Club. She started her Toastmasters journey not knowing about Toastmasters, but quickly learned the benefits that can be derived from being an active member. Toastmaster Michelle has held the positions of Secretary, President, Vice President, Public Relations, and is currently the Vice President, Education for Tropical Eloquence Toastmasters Club. She won Toastmaster of the Year twice in her home club and several other awards. This has propelled her to experience a marked improvement in her communication and leadership skills. Toastmaster Michelle loves traveling and shopping. One of her goals is to visit all Caribbean islands. She is currently at number 11. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, and well-wishers, help me welcome Michelle Pradell, or Toastmaster of the Day, to our virtual lectern.
A study from the University of California emphasizes the role of peer feedback in skills development. It revealed that individuals who receive supportive evaluations from peers are 50% more likely to take actionable steps towards improvement. In Toastmasters, where we learn from each other, this reinforces the idea that our feedback can create a nurturing environment that encourages everyone to thrive. Similarly, research from the American Psychological Association shows that positive reinforcement in feedback not only boosts performance, but also enhances self-esteem. In a Toastmasters setting where confidence is key, effective evaluations can transform how we view our own abilities, encouraging members to step outside their comfort zones and embrace new challenges. Division Director, Area Directors, Distinguished Toastmasters, Division E Toastmasters, Visiting Toastmasters, guests. I have the distinct pleasure of being your Toastmaster of the meeting this evening. I trust that this evaluation workshop will benefit you in more ways than one. At this time, we will do our icebreaker. And for that, I will share my screen. It's a Mentimeter. So you'll need to either download the QR code or go to www.mentimeter.com and put in the code. Can someone verify that you're seeing my screen?
We can see it.
Thank you. Okay, let's get going.
Can the link be shared in the chat, please?
The link for Mentimeter, sure.
And the agenda with the QR code was just placed in the chat, so you can scan the code.
Yes, that will be way easier because it will take you directly to the Mentimeter. Excellent. Going, how confident are you in giving evaluations? To what extent do you feel your evaluations inspire improvement in others? How effective are you in balancing positive feedback areas for improvement? A very, very important part of evaluations. And finally, how well do you tailor your evaluations to suit the speaker's experience level? DTM Corville. I hope you're taking note. This will determine how effective your workshop will be this evening, how difficult or how easy it will be.
Yes, I'm taking a look here.
Good. Here we'll take a couple more seconds. Come on, Toastmasters, you can scan the QR code. It will take you directly to the Mentimeter. That will be easier. We have about 5 more seconds. Excellent. So DTM Corville, there it goes. We are more or less neutral on a lot of these questions.
Yes.
So I trust that your workshop this evening will bring this results on the high end. Thank you. And now I'll turn over the virtual lectern to our presenter, Toastmaster Sharian Stapleton. Thank you.
Distinguished Toastmaster Corville Hylton, a Toastmaster for over 11 years, has served in all club offices as Area Director, Division Director, and on various district committees. He has been awarded Toastmaster of the Year and Area Director of the Year many times. He has attained his Distinguished Toastmaster designation under the Legacy and Pathways programs. Distinguished Toastmaster Hylton is a district certified trainer. He serves as a police officer, mentor, an elder, and emergency medical responder in Bermuda. His guiding philosophy is, if I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. Let's welcome Distinguished Toastmaster Corville Hylton.
Good evening, all, and thank you so much for this warm welcome. It's such a pleasure to be here with you, and I'm looking forward to a very enriching evaluation session. I do look forward to your participation. So at the appropriate time, you will be asked to give your input just as you did a while ago, because I'm sure we have all had experiences in terms of evaluation. Some have had good evaluations, some have had bad, some have had in between. But hopefully when we are finished with this session, you will be well equipped to receive evaluation, because sometimes we don't receive it well. And sometimes we don't give it well either. So I'm hoping that we'll bridge that gap and you will leave here this evening being better equipped to evaluate. I am going to give you an icebreaker as well. I know we just did one, but I want to give you an icebreaker. And you will have 2 minutes to do that. Let's set up my presentation here though. Great, here we go. Can I just get confirmation? Somebody could just give me a thumbs up. Well, I'm
Yes,
not.
we're seeing you.
You are seeing it. Great, awesome. So I'm going to give you this icebreaker activity to do now. And what this really is, it's interesting that you may have seen it. One of the times that I will always laugh is at an evaluation workshop or an evaluation speech contest, when you have a contest and you have the same speaker, you have 4, 5, 6 different participants, and they all give different perspective. And sometimes I wonder, were they evaluating the same speech? Was this person asleep or something? In fact, I had somebody evaluating me once, and I was confident that the young lady did not hear my speech. I think somebody gave her an evaluation to bring there and to use, maybe because I'm a distinguished Toastmaster, I probably threw her off. So somebody must have assisted her because she was a new Toastmaster, and probably gave her an evaluation, and she came there. But when she was finished, I was convinced that she did not do my speech because she didn't mention anything that I spoke about. And sometimes you have that. And that's why I want to give you this icebreaker. I want you to look and tell me exactly what you're seeing. I must say from the beginning, I know this is recorded. It's been recorded. I am being asked to admit folks, and I know it's because I am allowed to share, but if somebody could pay attention to that, because it's becoming very distracting. If you can pay attention to those who should be admitted. Right, so let's get going with our icebreaker. I want you to look at this and put in the chat all the differences or similarities that you see. You have 2 minutes beginning now. So look at these 2 pictures and tell me the similarities or the differences that you see.
Gene, same body language, different facial expression.
Yes, thank you for whoever is speaking. Go ahead and do that as well. You can unmute and tell me what you see, the differences or the similarities.
2 different lipstick color.
Yes.
Tattoos are different.
Oh, wow. Great, yes.
The apron is longer.
In one, yes.
The bow has polka dots on one side and doesn't have polka dots on the other.
Right. Yeah, that's different with both, yes.
The lipstick color is different.
Yes.
The bow.
30 seconds to go. Anything else we can see?
Her hair bow.
No dots on the bow and one of the bows.
That's already.
Right, yes.
Green top is longer in the one picture than the other.
Green top is longer. And that's a good point there. Green top is longer because I suspect everybody may not see that.
Well, no, we see the apron. Apron covers it.
Yes. 8 seconds to go. And our time is up.
Okay.
So let me stop sharing for a second. And thank you for those who are putting in the chat. In fact, Madam Toastmaster of the Day, can you read what's in the chat here for us, please, if you are still available?
So I'll go all the way up to the top. The hair ribbon, tattoo on the arm,
Okay, good. Thanks. Right. Just slam the door and make sure it's locked.
one glove on, one off, same gloves, tattoo on right hand. Skirt length different. The apron is longer in one picture. Red ribbon. Hairband doesn't have the polka dot in one pic. Lipstick color is different. And I think the rest of them, imprint on hand, that's the same as tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing anything. Oh, same pose. Shade green is different.
Mm-hmm.
Similarities, hairstyle, pose. That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. What's interesting, what I need to ask, did we all see the same things? Everybody agrees with everything you have seen or you have heard?
Sort of.
More or less, yes.
Okay, let's ask this question then. Do you all agree that the blouse is longer in one than the other?
No.
No.
No, I
Exactly.
would say the
No.
apron is different. The apron is
Yes.
Very good. So we don't have to go any further to prove the point. We are looking at the same picture, yet some people agree that the image, it looks larger or longer in one as opposed to the other. It's the same way when you are speaking. You will listen to the same speech. In fact, I remember giving a speech when I was doing the competent communicators manual, and I was trying a little at humor. I gave humor a shot, and my evaluator told me that I shouldn't apologize in my speech. And I will let you hear what it was. I said, I have a very good memory, but I apologize. It's not very long. It was meant to be funny, but she thought I was apologizing. And if somebody else heard it, which somebody else did, I say, you are a funny guy. But yet my evaluator thought I was apologizing. So it's the same way when you hear different speeches, because of people's level of understanding, their knowledge of the subject you're speaking on, and so many other variances that I will allude to that will allow others to give you a different evaluation. Some people are not helpful at all with their evaluation, while some are extremely helpful. Some people are probably a little too helpful with their evaluation, which we'll get into a little later. But I want us to see the reason really why people have different points to make when you speak, because they see things differently, they hear things differently, they're from a different society. The way we speak probably in Bermuda or Jamaica or Canada, it may be different in St. Lucia. So when you're evaluating people, all these variances come in place, and you will find that you get different evaluations based on who. Distinguished Toastmaster Nikenji, who is here, and I thank her and Toastmaster Stacy and the others who are supporting me from my club. But she always has what she calls round robin evaluation. I don't know if you do that at your club. And I think it's a good idea. What she asks is for everybody to just give your feedback on the speech that you have heard. Share it maybe even personally or privately with the speaker. So we need to practice being objective with our evaluation. Now, how can we lighten the activity to effective evaluation? How can we lighten this? I believe we just explained that. Anybody else wants to speak on that? How can you lighten this? I think we have just done that, unless you want to speak on that. All right. Well, the objectives of this course here, this seminar, is to state the importance of quality feedback, to identify potential obstacles towards a quality evaluation, know the difference between feedback and advice, and at the end, okay, describe the evaluation criteria based on objectives. So there you have it. State the importance of quality feedback, describe the evaluation criteria based on objectives, identify potential obstacles towards a quality evaluation, and know the difference between feedback and advice. We're going to look at all of these as we move along. The importance of quality feedback is the first thing we'll look at, and I would invite someone. Tell me, why do you think quality evaluation is important? You can just unmute and speak.
Can you repeat the question, please?
To allow the member to learn and grow.
Thank you so much, Madam District Director, and it's great to have you supporting us as well. Yes, that is so true. And I never like going anywhere to speak and hearing an evaluator saying, this speech was so good, I have no area to tell you to improve. That's not true. That shows your incompetence as an evaluator, because there's no perfect speech, not even with Obama, and I wouldn't even speak about President Trump. There's no perfect speech. there is always room for improvement. So if you don't see anything that they can improve on, I think it's because of your incompetence. And we'll get into that so you will see. Thank you so much for sharing that. How can we enrich our evaluation? What is evaluation? First of all, what is evaluation? And we'll also look at why do we give evaluations, and then we will share a brief experience. So you can prepare for these questions. So somebody just tell me, what do you think evaluation is?
It's a review of what you heard.
Exactly what you have heard and what you have seen. Very good. We can work with that. Why do we give evaluations? I think our district director just adequately told that to us as well. You give evaluation to improve the speaker. You want the speaker to improve. Now, I want someone to share with me. Give me an evaluation experience that you had, whether it was good or bad. Can anyone share with me an evaluation experience that really stands out to you?
I was one of those that said I saw nothing that was wrong. And that was because I was also new and feeling things out.
Yes, yes. Yes, very good. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being honest with that too. And that's exactly what I'm saying. Sometimes you're not as experienced. Sometimes you don't know what the person is speaking about. And that's why I would encourage you, if you want an effective evaluation, never just throw it in somebody's lap. I'm sorry, can you evaluate this person? This person may not be as experienced. They don't know anything about this path. They don't know anything about this speech. And you're asking them to evaluate. What do you expect them to do? And that's why we don't always have quality evaluations. Because in order to properly prepare, you must know ahead of time and prepare yourself, which we'll get into. So thank you for sharing that. Anybody else wants to share another experience you had, whether good or bad?
I would like to share. I actually was on the receiving end of an evaluation like that, where I was told that your speech was so good, there's nothing I can say. And I felt disappointed because I do not believe my speech was perfect. And I was hoping to have some feedback of something that I could have done to improve.
Very good. So you are disappointed even as a speaker when people tell you that. Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. I see Toastmaster Gaynor as well.
Yes, DTM. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm driving, so pardon me not putting on my camera.
That's fine.
Okay, so in Jamaica, we had a Toastmaster, excellent person who was blind. And I was evaluating him. And I noticed that when he was speaking, you know, he had his head in a particular position, fixed most of the time. So at the end, I told him, I said, your eye contact was not good. And, you know, he got just what I was saying. And up until this day, you know, he talks about it and he really appreciated the feedback because, you know, he wasn't working the room with his eyes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Very good point. And I see Toastmaster Tyreek as well.
Good afternoon, Distinguished Toastmaster Club. I'm speaking from the giving end of an evaluation. I remember I gave somebody an evaluation and the person ended up running off crying. And it was not that
was that terrible?
No, I went to an overseas club and I was invited as an evaluator. And the entire speech was monotone. And I was trying to find some good, to be honest. And I was every second that I was called on to evaluate, I had to ask, can I go last? Can I go last? Because it was a very difficult evaluation. And then I said, I'll just have to give it and face the consequences later. After giving the evaluation, I was not the only one that had that backlash from the same individual. Others have had it. And after sitting down, speaking with the individual, I decided, let me get the individual's number and speak to them on a one-on-one. And what I did with them, I said to them, when you have a monotone voice, it causes your evaluator to be in a state of mind that they don't know if they're going to do something right or do something wrong. And I didn't want the person to feel bad because I was trying my best to see what good can I give. And that was a very difficult place for me, especially if you're going to speak in monotone. And remember, I'm supposed to be evaluating everything. And if you're dragging your speech, it really puts the evaluator in a very bad position. So that was one of the worst experiences I had evaluating somebody, because I could not believe they said I caused the person to cry, but then I realized I'm not the only one that happened to. That happened to others.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I see DTM Stephanie is on as well. Just give me a second there, Distinguished Toastmaster Stephanie. I really appreciated that point, Toastmaster Tyreek, because I remember an evaluation at my club. I didn't do it, but I heard this guy giving a speech. It was number 3 in the Competent Communication Manual. Believe me, it was the worst speech I've ever heard in all my time in Toastmasters. It has nothing to do with the manual. He was reading all the way. He couldn't pronounce the words of the speech he wrote. They didn't have AI then, so I don't think AI did it for him. The guy was just terrible at what he did. And I was really happy that I wasn't the evaluator. But this changed my perspective about evaluation, because when the evaluator came up, she started, and I said, my goodness, she gave about 10 good things about this speech that was the worst I've ever heard. And that's what I want us to emphasize, because speech is not only the speaking, it's the delivery, it's the content, it's so much more. So something is happening. Sometimes the accent turns you off completely, and that just ruins you as an evaluator. But you have to look beyond that. And this young lady really changed my perspective about evaluation, because he told him that you presented well, you had a good structure to the speech, and all these things that I missed completely because the speech was so terrible in its delivery. But there were many other good things about the speech. So as an evaluator, we have to, and we are going to get into that. So you will see that there are many other areas you can look at, except the one thing that is sticking out like a sore thumb. Distinguished Toastmaster Stephanie.
Hi, yes, thank you so much, DTM Hylton. One of the things, it's similar to what you just mentioned. As an area director, I visited a club and a person gave a speech to the members in the club who like really were all DTMs, like there were 5 DTMs in the club. And the person talked about ways to really improve Toastmasters and get it on the map kind of thing. When he was evaluated, the person who evaluated him said, you know, some vague thing about it was good content, but he didn't know why the guy delivered the speech to a bunch of DTMs, because they didn't need the information. And so as an area director, I had to go in and in my commentary had to clean it up basically, because I could see the guy's posture and his face was deflated, getting this really bad, you know, response to his speech. So I had to thank him for the courage to stand up and give the speech. And I wrote down what I received out of it that was valuable. And I encouraged them to speak at my club. But I also mentioned our Toastmasters core values and mentioned that in a place where we provide in a positive learning environment, to give such feedback, it's something that you needed to do on the side if you didn't find value in it, but you can't assume that everybody in the club didn't receive value from it. So sometimes you have to clean up what was done, whether you do it publicly or on the side, to help that person grow.
Thank you so much, Distinguished Toastmaster Stephanie. This was such an invaluable input in this, because we need to know that when you see somebody err in evaluating someone, you shouldn't just allow it to go, especially if you are there as a high-ranking officer or the president even. You shouldn't allow it to go if you realize this person messed up. And you are not really putting anybody down. You are not going to say that was a bad evaluation, but you are going to try to fix. Because you can chase people away from the club with your evaluation. I've seen that. I almost lost one of my friends once because she wrote a speech for an occasion. She was going to a wedding and she asked me to evaluate it, and I did. And when that girl was done with me, I was so embarrassed. And I asked her, I said, if you needed an honest evaluation, why did you ask me if you did not need an honest evaluation? Because I said, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat it or give you props for what I don't see. And she really appreciated it after, because she had another speech to do and she came back to me after that one. But that one, and she told me for this reason, she would never join Toastmasters. So you have to realize as well, not everybody receives an evaluation well. especially when they think they are the greatest speaker and nothing can go wrong with my speech. There is never a perfect speech. Never convince yourself that there is a perfect speech. And sometimes you are doing so well in your club and you get somebody else from the outside to come and evaluate you, which is always a good idea. And when they start, you realize the many things you have been missing because your evaluators, they are so used to you. They know you're a great speaker and like they have reached their limits. They don't know what else to tell you. But when you get somebody else from the outside with new, fresh eyes, they can assist you to move forward. Thank you so much for all those who share. We could stop here really because we have done so much. Who benefits from the evaluation? Anybody wants to guess? Just in a nutshell, who do you think benefits from evaluation?
The person being evaluated.
Very good. The person being
The
evaluated.
entire club.
The entire club. Yes, your entire audience.
And the evaluator.
And the evaluator. Very good. So you know that as well. Let's see how they benefit. The speaker improves. They benefit because you are providing areas that they can improve and areas that they are strong in as well, because it's not only about improvement, which that's an important part, but you want to let them know the areas they are strong. Also, it benefits the audience, as you said, because they learn from the evaluation. And in some circles, you will hear when you're evaluating, you shouldn't be saying, Distinguished Toastmaster Stephanie, this was a great speech. Distinguished Toastmaster Stephanie, what I would want you to do. You don't need to be saying that because you are really addressing the entire club, not only the person you are evaluating. So you can make reference to the person, but you are not speaking to the, and sometimes you hear people, please spotlight Distinguished Toastmaster Stephanie. I need to see her as I evaluate. I'm wasting time doing that. That's not the only person you're speaking to. You're speaking to everybody. And what if the person is there listening, having their dinner or something like you may be doing now? You don't have to see them. That doesn't prevent them from hearing you if they're not spotlighted. So please, I wouldn't encourage you. I know it's the practice of a lot of people, but don't waste time talking about, can you spotlight the speaker? Mr. Tech, can you spotlight? No, you don't need to be wasting time doing all that. Just speak because you're speaking generally to everybody. The evaluator benefits as well because it develops you as a great listener. It develops you as a speaker because, as you know, it's a speech as well. It develops you in so many ways. So it's not only the person who is being evaluated, but the entire club. Everybody is involved in the evaluation. And I must say at this point as well, feel free when somebody is being evaluated or when somebody speaks, you can put in the chat, especially since we are in virtual space, or even if you're at the regular meeting, we have the ballots that you would put speaker number 1 and you put the points that you liked about the speech and the areas they can improve. So feel free to do that in addition to what the evaluator does, especially if you see the evaluator missed a point that you would have pointed out, you can do that as well. How to be an enriching, encouraging, and effective evaluator. Listen to what Lance Miller, he was the world champion of public speaking winner in 2025. Maybe some of you know him. I wasn't around that early, in Toastmasters that is. But he says, I am a firm believer that if you want to be an excellent speaker, you have to be an excellent speech evaluator. You cannot do one without the other. And this is so true. I see some people evaluating and you never see them speaking. And you see them speaking, you never see them evaluating. You have to do both. In the speech contest, I enter as the chair, the chief judge, a contestant. I do everything. So I know both sides of the fence, or all sides of the fence, really. Because if you are to be effective, you have to know what it is to be on the receiving end and the giving end as well. That's why I like that project they have in number 1, which they don't have anymore. They put it somewhere else. But let's move on to potential obstacles towards quality evaluation. I want you to tell me here, what do you think are some of the obstacles that you could potentially face? You can unmute and let me know, please.
lack of familiarity with the content.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Lack of familiarity with the content.
Very good. Lack of familiarity with the content, and I would dare say the objectives of the speech.
Poor listening skills.
Poor listening skills. Yes, thank you. Very good. You didn't hear what the speaker was saying or doing, and you still evaluated. You shouldn't do that. Very good. Thank you. Anything else?
If you're an online, this is Trudy Young. If you're an online participant and you are an evaluator and you're in a blended club, if you cannot hear the speaker properly, you can mis-evaluate them in how you're hearing.
Yes, yes, that's so true. Yes, thank you for sharing that.
As well as if you cannot see the speaker, because then if you're looking for body language.
Exactly.
Yes, very good. Very good. That's another good one.
I also want to add to sometimes, and I've heard evaluations where the person starts evaluating the speaker and they might touch on a thing in the speech that reminded them about something, and then they make the evaluation about them. Like they'll talk about, oh, I heard you say so-and-so about climbing up a tree. And I remember when I was a kid, and then they'll go on to 2 minutes talking about them climbing up a tree, and they only just reserve the 30 seconds for the feedback. So that never makes sense to me.
Excellent point. And I'm going to touch on that as well. Very good point there. Thank you. Anyone else? I don't want to leave anybody out. And you're all correct. You gave some good points here. Let's look here then on some of the ones we have. The potential towards a quality evaluation for the evaluator. One, the evaluator is not prepared, which I heard. And that's why I'm saying, don't just come to the meeting and just throw the evaluation at somebody. Can you evaluate this person? I know sometimes things happen and the evaluator didn't come or is late or something, so you have to ask somebody else. But if you are going to do that, I would recommend you try to ask somebody who is more experienced, somebody who may have done that speech already, instead of just giving it to somebody new who has no clue what they are doing and then give a bad evaluation. Then the evaluator does not have enough experience, which is what we're saying. The evaluator does not like the topic or the speaker. Yeah, that's true. I was at a club meeting just the other day, and I heard the grammarian said to one person, I know you are Jamaican, so I know the way you guys pronounce words, so I will be listening out. That was so wrong. It was so wrong, because you never evaluate the person. You're evaluating the speech, which we'll get to as well. So, and it's worse, why would you be pinpointing somebody in the meeting because you're from Barbados or wherever you speak with a certain accent? In fact, we all speak with different accents. And your accent is only good for your domain, really. So we shouldn't be speaking about people's accent because you speak with a Portuguese accent, then we couldn't hear clearly what you're saying. No, you don't need to do all that. People know what they're doing. And then you have people who are doing like, they do Spanish as their first language, but they are coming into our club. I did see Distinguished Toastmaster Small. She did a path in French, which is commendable. But you don't criticize people because you're an English speaker. I realize you didn't pronounce your words well. No, you don't need to do that, but we'll get to all that. Here's one. The evaluator does not like the topic or the speaker. I remember I was judging at a speech contest, and one of the most disgusting speeches I've heard. This guy came, his entry was talking about how to use the bathroom, how to pass feces in the bathroom, and his experience. It was so disgusting. But guess what? The guy ended up the winner, because despite the fact that I didn't like the topic, and I'm sure none of the other judges did, we're not judging him on how much we like the topic. That's not one of the criteria. It's what he did as a speaker, the content, how convincing he was. And he was, even though you were cringing for the entire speech, it was a good speech. So you may not like the topic you're hearing, but that doesn't prevent you. You may not like the accent you're hearing. You may not like the person, how the person looks. As handsome as I look, maybe not all of you guys like me, but don't allow. In fact, I heard something very early Never allow the speaker to get in the way of the speech. I heard that from my father-in-law. Never allow the speaker to get in the way of the speech. And when you are evaluating, remember that as well. The evaluator is distracted during the speech. You are the grammarian, you are the R counter, you are doing this, you are the Toastmaster of the day, and you are evaluating as well. How do you expect to do a good job? You probably can't. So be careful when you're evaluating, make sure you're paying attention to that and you are not too distracted. How about obstacles for the speaker? What can some of those obstacles be? Would anyone like to share for the speaker? What could be some of the obstacles to a quality evaluation? Anybody wants to make a guess?
I think some speakers that I've seen have been intimidated by the evaluator. They might say, oh my gosh, this is a really good speaker or evaluator. I don't know if I can measure up, in my speech. And that may cause them to be a little bit nervous, or if they're not a seasoned speaker, just, oh my God, I'm nervous about what they're going to say about my speech.
That is so true. Thank you so much for sharing that. I remember we had an evaluator and I'm happy she moved away from Bermuda, so she's no longer in the club. I was so afraid of that lady evaluating me because it was always constructive evaluations, mind you, but some things you have never seen, you have never heard, some areas you weren't even looking into or thinking of. And she comes with them and she never fails. So and guess what? When I was doing my first DTM under the old legacy program, guess who I had very reluctantly as one of the members of my team? I put that lady, and for that very reason, because I know she's very critical, she's very thorough, and she is going to make sure I stay on the straight and narrow. And I was so happy that I had her on there. And believe me, she gave me a run for my money. I earned that when I did that HPL project because of her on there. So we shouldn't run away from these people. But yes, some people can be a little excessive in their evaluation. And what I want to share even at this point is sometimes when the speaker speaks, you may have a whole lot of things you can tell them to improve on. And I think you should let them hear them on, but not at the meeting, not while you're evaluating them. Thankfully, it's only 2.5 minutes anyhow. So you don't have enough time to say all the things, but you should let them hear because you want them to improve. But give them about 3 good things and maybe 2 areas to improve, which we'll get into. And at some point, you can speak to them personally after the meeting or send them a follow-up email or something. But never you go there and overload it with all the things, your evaluation with all the areas they can improve, because that's very discouraging, even to other people who are listening. It will be. So you need to make sure there's a good balance. Speaker did not clearly understand the evaluator's feedback. Sometimes that can happen. The speaker is not open to change or does not know how to because no specific examples were noted. Now, this is very important. When you're evaluating someone, don't just tell them your eye contact was poor or your gesture was poor. You need to tell them where they have missed opportunity. So you are saying your gestures, you missed a few opportunities for gestures. You were talking about when the little boy threw the ball. You could have thrown the ball there. Or the cat jumped over the wall. You could have shown something there. Or you were talking about a wide fence or a long something or a tall something you could have shown. So give them, and you speak about eye contact as well. I find for the entire time you were looking down or you were looking sideways. Tell them, and not only point out where they have gone wrong, but point out how they can make the changes. So it's not only to point out, you need to give them ways they can improve. The speech had no structure. Yeah, that's not helpful. Tell them, probably if they knew how to give it structure, they would have from the beginning. So it's your role as an evaluator to help them to do that and to fix it where possible. The speaker allows previous personal judgments about the evaluator to affect his or her reaction to the evaluation. So you know this person is a critical evaluator, and you didn't want them to evaluate you, but here we go. The Vice President Education asked them to. So you were a bit close-minded when it got to you receiving the evaluation. You probably didn't hear, or because of your mindset, you misunderstood what the person was saying. But you need to have an open mind. Have an open mind when you are receiving evaluation, because it's not only about giving evaluation, but receiving it. As I said, some people do take offense as well. How do you enhance your evaluation? Let's look at some ways we can. I know we are coming up to our first break. In your evaluation, as I said before, the person may have a monotone voice, or the person may stand one place, or the person may sit when they are doing the speech like I'm doing right now. I hope you don't hold it against me. But you should be looking at what, how, and why. Never evaluate the person, evaluate the speech. Never evaluate the person, evaluate the speech. So what? What did the speaker do? Or what could the speaker have done differently? How? How did the speaker do? Or how could the speaker have done it differently? And remember, there's not only one way to do things. So it doesn't have to be the way you do it or the way you would do it. And because of that, you need to respectfully say, I would recommend. And we will look at the language you use. Why? It influences the effectiveness of the speech in achieving the speech purpose. So why did you do that? How did it come across to you? And you're always speaking from your perspective. Sometimes I know as evaluators, we will say the audience probably saw it this way. You can't really speak for the audience. You're speaking for yourself. But in a positive way, you probably will say, I'm sure the audience will agree that this was a great speech. So we will look at the language when we come back. It's going to the break now. So I will turn over to our moderator so she can properly take us into the break and give us instructions, and then we come back where we will finish off.
Sound.
away.
Hello, good evening again. I trust you have refreshed yourself and you're ready to go again. And I hope I just got a little humor while we were on the break. I realized I copied the wrong one. So I had somebody else's name up as opposed to mine. So that's why you shouldn't copy too much. Even evaluation, that can be valuable. Don't be copying from others and doing what they do. Do you, because that works better. So let's move on to our second half now. And that's interesting to find where we were. Okay, I think it's here. Yes, I believe this is where we stopped.
Yes, it was.
Yes, thank you. So let's move on from here and we can all see the screen. Can we see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I told you about this before. Evaluate the speech and not the speaker. So don't speak about because the person is fat or because the person is black or because the person is from Jamaica or Canada, or don't do that. you're not evaluating the speaker at all. You're evaluating the speech. Look, and we will look, because sometimes I believe it's out of inexperience. So we're going to look at some of the areas we look at. Why did it go back instead of forward? Evaluate the speaker's speech. The speech structure. Here are some things you can look at. The structure of the speech, the value of the speech to the audience. Was it logical? Did the person meet the objectives? And the delivery. I need to ask you a question at this point. Usually you ask a question, but let me ask you one here. Are you from a club where they said this speech did not meet the objective? I need you to redo this speech. Just say yes if you're from that club, or no if you're from that, not from that club. Do they do that at your club? In fact, just give me anybody do they do that at your club? The speech is not up to standard, so they ask you to redo the speech.
Previous clubs.
I
used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would probably say, I suggest.
Yes. Well, there are clubs, and I hope they don't exist in the majority now, but I've seen clubs where people is a pass and fail. When you do a speech, you didn't pass the speech, so I'm going to ask you to do it again. No, it's not a pass and fail. In fact, I believe you're a poor evaluator if you have to ask somebody to do over the speech, because the idea, I hope this is not the only speech a person is doing. The idea is to tell the person, what did you do well in this speech? What are the areas you can improve for your other speeches? You can use the information I'm giving you now for your future speeches. That's what it's all about. I remember a young lady asked me to evaluate her. So I had to travel to our club and evaluate her. And she said, this is the 4th time I'm doing this speech. And for some reason, I just can't pass it. And when I evaluated her, it was one of the best speeches I've ever heard. Because did you know there are people who are trying to hold you back? And as a result of that, they will tell you, you didn't pass. Pass what? I've never repeated a speech. You're not talking to me if you tell me to repeat a speech. What I take from your evaluation, which is not even always helpful, is the areas you tell me I'm strong at and the areas you tell me I can improve. But you telling me to do over the speech, you're not really talking to me. I'm not. And it's not because I think I'm above doing over a speech. That's not what it's about at all. But your job as the evaluator is to help me to improve the next time I speak. This is not the only speech I'm going to do. And I can tell you there are some people who are just like that. They will try their best to keep you down, and as a result, they don't pass it. I couldn't believe this young lady. She cried many times at her club when they evaluated
my
her.
experience, I'm sure. That has been my experience. Somebody trying to keep it up. Trying to keep it up. That's my experience.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that as well. You don't do that to people. And as I said, your job as the evaluator is not to tell the person to do over the speech 2, 3 times. I went to a club and this young lady was doing a 10-minute speech and she went over by, it was a couple seconds, like 5 seconds. And the evaluator asked her to do over the speech. I said, am I hearing correctly? Why would you do that to somebody? If somebody pays you to speak somewhere, they pay you to speak, and you went over by 5 minutes. No, well, not 5 minutes, 5 seconds. Do you think they are going to take back the money from you? Do you really think they would? I doubt it. In fact, they would be happy. If you are that great of a speaker, they would be happy if you give them an extra 5 minutes. And I'm saying you need to maintain the time and work within the time parameters that you have. That's fine. But if somebody went over by 5 seconds, no, don't tell them to do over a speech. I mean, that's not one of the reasons you should tell people to do over a speech if you are so inclined. Do not evaluate based on the feelings of the speaker. The speaker may not be at their best at the time. Maybe the person has a cold, has a flu, somebody just passed for the person, maybe their mother died or something, and you're evaluating them. And I can see that you're down today because you're used to giving and you're more energetic. No, don't do that. That may be just causing the person to feel worse. Do not evaluate based on your opinion of the speech subject. You remember I told you about when the guy was talking about feces. You may not like that subject. There may be other subjects you don't like. You would prefer people not speak about them. But when they are speaking, that's not one of the criteria. How much did the speaker, how much did the evaluator like the speech in terms of the topic? No, that's not one of the things you evaluate. So don't do that. And finally, help the speaker to improve. You want to help the speaker. And that's why I told you from the beginning, never, if somebody speaks, and I know there are many brilliant speakers here, but if they speak, they are depending on you for your help to improve. You fail your fellow members if you tell them, this was a great speech, I don't see any area to improve. Because all that is saying is that you couldn't find any areas. And the funny thing, when you're saying that, there are other people who are on who are saying, oh no, did they miss this? Did they miss that? It's like the grammarian when you use the word of the day, and you probably personally use the word 3-4 times, and the grammarian came and said, I only heard the word 2 times, when one person used it more. Just a meeting I went the other day, one of the speakers actually said, I use the word of the day because that person was left out. So sometimes you're just not paying enough mind or attention. You need to make sure, take evaluation seriously so you can help the person to improve. That's one of your main objectives, to help the person to improve. A speech consists of content and delivery. So if the person is delivering the speech very poorly, it doesn't mean you should throw away the content because the content is not good as well. And vice versa. If the person has very bad content, it doesn't mean that the delivery is not good. So don't just combine them. I'm sure each of you here at some point you have heard politicians. Most times, I hope no politician is here, most times what they're saying is not true, but they're so convincing. And that's what you need to look at, that the speech is not only the content, it's also the delivery. So let's look at what we're looking at. The speech content. Look at the many things you can look at. Did they use stories? Did they have a very good message? Did they have a call to action? Most times we miss this. At the end, they have a nice call to action to tell you what they wanted to take away. How was the structure of the speech? Was it humorous? Did they have humor in it? Or did you misunderstand the humor like my evaluator did? Did they present data and look at the data? Was it too much? Was it overwhelming? Was it clear enough so others could see it and follow it? Did they use rhetorical devices in their speech? How about the language? The relatability of the speech to the audience, topic selection, the speech purpose. Look at the many things you can speak about for the speech content. And then we are not finished. Let's look at the delivery. Look at what we can look at. Did they use vocal variety? Did they use pauses? Did they use body language? How about gesture? Stage presence, stage movement, the eye contact, energy, the energy level, their props, their PowerPoint, slides, audience engagement, where they are the slides big enough? Were they too much? Did they have too many words? Just things like that. So there's so much for you to comment on that 2.5 minutes are really not enough. So there's no need for you to be telling people that there's nowhere for you to improve. Were they perfect in all these areas? I doubt it. Have a speech structure. An evaluation is a speech, just like any other speech. And if you have entered a contest, an evaluation contest, then you would know that you have to have an introduction, you have to have your body, and you have to have your conclusion where you summarize. So it's a speech. And when you are giving your evaluation at the club, it should be no different. An evaluation is a speech, yes, which is what I just said. Make your speech structure clear. You can do so with a simple sentence. For example, I will be evaluating your speech based on what I thought were some great points and what I felt could be improved. That could be your opening, and then you move on. Or I will be using the acronym ABC to evaluate your speech. And some people do that as well. Those would be your main points. Is there a perfect speech? You tell me. I've said it a few times, but do you think there's ever a perfect speech? Everybody here, have you given a perfect speech? Do you think you have already given a perfect speech? There's nothing you think. And did you know you are your worst critic? Tell me, do you think you have given a speech where there's nowhere you could have improved it? Anybody?
No.
No.
Nope.
No. And if you haven't, and you are all great speakers, why do you think somebody else have? I don't think so. So let's look at this. Do not whitewash the speaker. I know sometimes we are trying to be kind, especially when the person is here for the first time or it's their icebreaker, and we'll get into how you deal with an icebreaker as well. But do not tell them that this is the best speech you have ever heard, when in truth and in fact, it's the worst one you have heard. Don't do that, because if you do that, you are really not helping the person. And you need to, in your evaluation, be assisting. I want somebody to share with me, have you ever had a whitewash speech where somebody just went on and on about you like this is the best speech you have ever heard in their life, and you realize you messed up a few parts? Anybody here has ever experienced that? No? I have. Maybe it's just me then. But
yes, yes, and yes.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I have.
Yes,
And I think, yes, sorry?
Sorry, I was saying there are a number of people who said yes in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. Please assist me there because I'm sharing, I'm not able to see. So thank you so much. You can be their voice if they put it in the chat. Yes, I am sure we have experienced that at some point or another where, and especially when you're a distinguished Toastmaster, I don't know, some people, they just come. I know you're a great speaker already, so I don't have any area for you to improve. This was a great speech, just continue doing well. I am usually disappointed when I hear that because I know that there are areas that I can improve and I wish the evaluator would point them out. So sometimes you have to be your own evaluator. And as I say that as well, sometimes the evaluator will say some things that are not helpful at all. You don't have to take them personally. Remember, the person is giving their evaluation. It's their opinion of your speech. So while you accept it, you don't have to agree. Don't think you must agree with everything the person is saying, especially if you realize that it's way off. We all join Toastmasters because we want to improve. So help people, and whitewashing them doesn't help. But here's the contrary. Do not only offer suggestions to improve. We want to encourage a speaker, however bad they may be at the time. I want to share a brief experience. I remember when I was doing my 40th speech, because you know in the legacy program, you have to do 40 speeches in order to get your Distinguished Toastmaster. So when I was doing that one, and it was about how to live, how to help others, how to make your life impactful. So I invited quite a few of my friends there, my colleagues and friends from different walks of life, and that place was packed. When my evaluator started speaking, she said, "No, remember, this is my 40th speech. And most of my speeches at my club, I got best speaker because we normally vote for the best speaker. I got best speaker in most of my speeches." And when that evaluator was finished, she spoke about so many areas that I was so terrible at. In fact, I can't remember one thing that she said I did well because I don't think she mentioned anything. When it was finished, these people that I invited, they weren't Toastmasters. They just came to support me. And one of them asked me, "What did that young lady have against you?" And they don't know anything about evaluation. But yet, because of how she came across, you never do that. You never do that. If you have so many, and this is my 40th speech, and I keep repeating that, if somebody who is doing their 40th speech to get their DTM is so bad, I think it's an embarrassment on the club. So you shouldn't be ironing your dirty linen out in the public there either. But that wasn't even the case, because when it was finished, a lot of these people asked me to send them the speech, which I did. But yet my evaluator found that that was basically the worst speech she has ever heard from me. So be careful when you do that as well. No, I didn't take on any of that because I realized it wasn't really a genuine evaluation. As I said, I was going for my DTM. I don't think it was a genuine evaluation. These people who came who weren't Toastmasters didn't think it was genuine. In fact, they thought the young lady had something against me, which I don't think she did. But it's just how poor the evaluation was. So be careful of blackwashing as well. If you have anything to share, you can go right ahead. The evaluation, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was thinking about sometimes I hear evaluations and sometimes the evaluator repeats practically the whole speech.
Ah.
You know, and it's, to me, that's not giving good feedback. That's giving another speech again, you know.
Very good.
Yeah, so that I didn't really appreciate that one, but I didn't know how to respond to it also, as far as putting it in the chat saying, don't repeat the same speech.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. That's a very good point. And if I wasn't going to bring it out, I'm happy you mentioned that. You should not repeat the speech. Everybody heard the speech, they heard it. So you don't have to repeat the entire, like you are summarizing the speech. Why would you do that? You don't have time for that anyhow. What you're doing is looking at the content of the speech, looking at the delivery, and you make reference to different points. So like you can speak about, I really felt the impact of when you said you saw your father for the first time. That really impacted me. And as you rightly said, I heard it before, don't take over the speech right there and say, I've not met my father. I didn't meet my father before I was 40 years old. And it was such an emotional time for me. I remember we met, and you just go on and take over the whole thing as if it's about you. It's not about you. It will come up, but I just, since that was mentioned, thank you for doing that. Here's our evaluation form. You need to look at it. I think it's very simple. It's simple enough as opposed to the other one, which was always a different evaluation. These have a lot of similarities. So you look at them, know what the notes to the evaluators are, the purpose of the speech, the purpose of the project, and what the objectives are. Look at everything. And if you do have the time as well, you could look at the project itself. Like you can scan through it or read through it, or hopefully it's one you have done. And most of us have as well. I have completed 9 parts out of the 10, out of the 11. And I know they are going to be even less now. So most of the ones they are coming back with, I think I probably have done them before. So when I get a speech to evaluate, I probably am aware or familiar with it because I've done it personally before. So you need to, if you don't, that's nothing, that's fine. You just familiarize yourself with what the project really is. And if it's a distinguished Toastmaster who is going to be presenting, don't let that intimidate you, because they still can learn from you, and they do. If you're a good evaluator and you're looking at the project, you're looking at their delivery, they will still learn from you, and they will appreciate learning from you as well. So don't be intimidated because you are probably completing your first path, or you probably just did 2 levels and you are going to evaluate a distinguished Toastmaster. It makes no difference if you are a good evaluator. Evaluate based on the speaker's level. You should not evaluate an icebreaker speech. Well, these days it's different because, you know, you have to do an icebreaker for each project, each path that you're going to do. So it's different now. But if you know you have a new member coming in the club and this is their first speech, you should not evaluate them like how you evaluate a distinguished Toastmaster or a more advanced speaker. So here are some of the things you look at. You need to tailor your evaluation based on the person's experience. So if the person is doing an icebreaker, but they're already a distinguished Toastmaster, then of course, meet them at their level. Speak about confidence, level of preparedness, clarity, and speech organization. And also, for an icebreaker, you need to, the speech point, in the icebreaker speech, point out strengths and comment on the structure of the speech. So you are looking basically on where the person, where you see that they excel. Basically, that's what you're looking for. And try not to comment on lack of vocal variety or body language, as these are objectives for later projects, which they will work on anyhow, and they will learn about it. So you don't need to discourage them. I wish you had used more vocal variety and you were reading too much. Of course, that's applicable even at the icebreaker, but you don't have to focus on those things too much. Focus more on their strengths and tell them where they can improve. Avoid these advanced things that you look at, avoid those. And just meet them at their level of preparedness and their confidence. They spoke with clarity, they projected well. Tell them about those things. Read pathway guidelines, as we said before. Reading guidelines give you a lot of content to work with. So when you read what's in here, you have a lot to work with. And you will understand the speaker's objectives and what to look out for. You will find things to comment on just by reading the guidelines itself. Ask for the speaker's goals. Most times when somebody is going to evaluate you, they will come to you and they will ask you, what are some of the areas you want me to look out for? Personally, I prefer when you come and just look and tell me what you see and areas I can improve, areas you think I am strong. But some speakers may be working on their gestures. They may be working on their vocal variety. They may be working on their eye contact. So they will tell you that and they will make a special effort to do that. So ask the speaker about that. And that's exactly what I just said. Before the meeting, speaker asks them about it, or you can ask them during the week if you know that you're going to evaluate them. You don't have to wait for the last minute or even wait until you get to the meeting. You are putting in the chat, what do you want me to look at? Maybe the speaker is not in that frame of mind at that point because they are more focused on delivering their speech. So speak to them like a week before or days before. Give them a quick call and just speak to them. It probably takes about 2 minutes, 3 minutes of your time, and that works marvelously. Ask the speakers for the goals they are working on. Some may tell you the different areas you need to look out for, and they will tell you the different aspects. Remember, it's not about you. So I said we would get to this, but remember, the evaluation is not about you. The evaluation is about the speaker. So don't take over the speech. If they speak about something you can identify with, then it means that you go up there for the 2 minutes and speak about yourself. Then you remember when the red light goes on, you remember that it's somebody else you're evaluating. So you just start rushing things there and go over 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes with your evaluation. You need to be mindful that it's not about you at all. You don't need to mention yourself, and if you do, for a good reason, because you could. You could say, I remember when I was doing this speech, I didn't feel as confident as I see you appear to us now. So that's fine, but not to take over the whole thing and talk about yourself. Resist the temptation to talk about yourself. Keep the focus on the speaker. Remember, your goal as an evaluator is to add value to the speaker and the audience. No, this is very important, using the sandwich approach. I want you to share with me, what do you understand? And there are other things that people use that really amounts to the same thing. But let me hear from you. What do you understand this approach to be, the sandwich approach?
I like the good things. that you noticed, give recommendations for areas for improvement, and highlight the positive again.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, and then you just wrap everything up. So yes, I see Toastmaster Julius. Yes.
Yes, I use recommendations, then commendations, and then a conclusion.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Yes, and we need to strike a balance. Anybody wants to tell me, like in terms of proportion, what would you do?
3, 2, 3.
3, 2, 3. Yes, if time allows, that's perfect. Thank you. Anybody had something different?
2, 2, 2.
You said 2, 2, 2?
Yes.
Okay, 2, 2, 2. Okay, yeah. Well, you can't get a little more balance than that. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Say who you are evaluating. So we are using the sandwich approach, but here is the outline of the evaluation. You say who you are evaluating and the title of the speech. Remind everyone briefly of the project objectives. The body. So that was the opening. The body, as you said, 2 commendations. Wow. 2 recommendations, 1 commendation to end with. And you could do the 2 as well. And you could even do 3 for the beginning. But the problem is you may not have enough time because you need a summary as well. The conclusion. Summarize the 5 points in the body of the speech. So whatever amount of points you made to the 2 recommendations, the 2 commendations, and the 2 commendations and 1 at the end, you just summarize, put everything nicely together and wind up your evaluation. Close with a positive remark to the speaker. You're a brilliant speaker. I look forward to hearing you again. Or please continue speaking and inspire others. End with something positive. Feedback versus advice. I think until we did this project, for me, I didn't really realize in Toastmasters there was a difference, but there actually is. Feedback is the information about what was observed. We are saying you saw this, you heard this, you felt this. Feedback is given in a positive improvement, positive format, and is stated in I language. I will get more into the language shortly. Advice is your opinion. So you are stating what you saw. I saw that you were looking to your right for the entire speech. What's your advice? I would recommend that in the future, you have your speech in front of you and focus on the speech and look at your audience at the same time. So you give, that's your advice, which is very beneficial as well. This may be beneficial if the evaluator is offering suggestions and ways to improve. So your advice is good when you're offering the person ways to improve. But you must point out in the speech, as we said much earlier, where you think they have gone wrong. Using constructive language. Remember, you could do the same speech as somebody else and you do it in a different way. So they don't have to say it the way you would say it. They don't have to structure it the way you say it. So if there's a way you prefer, don't tell them you did it the wrong way. This is how you should do it. No, because your way is not always the right way or the only way. How you phrase your evaluation and how you express it can and will impact the speaker greatly because they depend on what you're saying to improve. Using language that is constructive and descriptive encourages the speaker and provides the speaker with meaningful, useful feedback. And how does it go? But just before we get to the questions, let me ask you a few questions. Tell me, when you're evaluating someone, what are some of the useful words you can use? And I think I can stop sharing now. What are some of the useful ways you can, or creative ways you can actually give the feedback?
Use I statements. Use I statements.
Use I statement. When you said this, I felt or I believe. Yes. And I recommend that in your future speeches, you do this or you try this because you don't have to take your evaluation as well. Very good. Thank you. Anything else? How you would present an evaluation, the words you would use? All right, while we're at that, may I ask, do you have any questions? I know we shared throughout, but do you have any questions about evaluation or about anything I've shared so far?
Good afternoon, DTM Corville. Thank you so much for your presentation. Evaluation is one of the things that I shun from, but I should say that I used to shun from, but I'm volunteering to do it more. Yeah. And I'm looking at other persons within my club, the way how they evaluate. One of the things that someone made comment of earlier today was that some evaluators tend to say your whole speech over again. And I've often wondered, is that the way that it should be done? Should I be doing that? Because I can't remember everything. The speech was so good. I was so engaged with the speech. How do I remember what they're saying? I cannot. So do we have to remember everything that they said and word for word go through, giving back their speech over again? Because I know you can highlight certain things, but I feel as if I'm not doing a good job because I'm not evaluating the way that they evaluate, being able to say the whole speech over again. Sometimes I don't remember the beginning of your speech, but I know I heard your speech. I listened, you had me, your movements were good, your vocal variety were good, all the things that are listed on the evaluation form. But to repeat your speech back to you, I cannot. And I've seen some very good evaluators, not just at my club, at other clubs as well. I think, yes, at other clubs as well, or at meetings. And I'm like, okay, how am I doing it wrong? Oh gosh, I cannot do this. What's your advice for somebody like, think for me, as I want to be a really good evaluator?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. And it was really, we spoke to it a little earlier, but you may have missed it. You are not summarizing the speech. That's not what the evaluation is about. You remember, you're looking at the content, you're looking at the delivery. There will be times when you need to make reference to places in the speech. Like you spoke about how loud the guy was. And when you said loud, we could hear your voice carrying the volume. So things like those, you will make reference to places in the speech, but your job as the evaluator is never to summarize the speech and say, you started by talking about this and then you went on, and no, you're not doing that. You're evaluating the speech. So you are not summarizing the speech, you're evaluating it. But in saying that, as I said, you will make reference from time to time, and you should. And especially if there are areas as well that you are speaking about improvement, you point out where I think when you said the little boy shouted, you could have raised your voice there. Or you spoke about somebody who was very tall. I think you could have used your hand to show us. So you use places in the speech to make the points you're making, but not summarizing the speech. That is never necessary. And that's not a good evaluation, in my opinion. Again, that's just my opinion. But you never evaluate, repeating the summary, summarizing the speech is no way to evaluate. Because if you do that, you're going to run out of time anyhow, just telling everybody what they have just heard. Because everybody was listening to the speech just like you. Why are you going to summarize it for everybody? That's not what you're doing. I think I saw a question in the chat. I hope that answered your question. What would be a valid reason, if any, for an evaluator asking the speech to be repeated? Anybody wants to give this a go?
None. It's none. There would be no good reason to ask someone to repeat a speech after they have done it. It is to provide recommendations and suggestions to improve when they give their next speech. Back to you, presenter.
Thank you for that. And I do agree with you 100%. And I've always said that there's no reason. If the person went over with time, you tell them the next time, because I was at a club just recently, and this gentleman did his icebreaker. Of course, you know, it's 4 to 6 minutes. He was like 10 minutes and counting when they actually asked him to wrap up. But that was no reason to ask him to do the speech over. And the evaluator was very helpful. They told him that when you're giving speeches, you need to be mindful of the time you have as well. If the person didn't follow the guidelines, you need to point that out to them. Your job is to help them to do a better job, to improve when they go forward, not to be stuck on one speech doing it 4 or 5 times. No, that's not what Toastmasters is about. In fact, there's only one project they ask you to repeat, and that's the evaluation speech. They ask you to repeat that and put what you have learned into practice. But other than that, Toastmasters International never requires you to do a speech over, except in that area. Any other questions? And I think we have something in the chat here. You can read what's in the chat. I think they're asking you to do an evaluation. Do you have any other questions or anything you want to share? That probably an area that I missed out in the next 2 minutes that you can share? No? Well, I won't keep up any more of your time. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share Toastmaster Daniel, who I've shared a relationship with. Toastmaster Camille, do you have a question?
No, I don't. I was applauding you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, but thank you again, as I said, for having me. It was really a pleasure sharing with you. And I do hope you will take away something from this evaluation. In fact, probably in the minute or two, I could ask you that. Is there anything that stood out for you in this presentation that you will now practice? Or one takeaway that you will take away from this presentation?
The sandwich method.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Christine. Yes. Anything else that you will take away? You will stop telling people that this was a perfect speech and there's no way you can improve?
Always find room for improvement.
Yes, thank you. If you do nothing else, do that.
Not to make the evaluation about you, but try to show the person what they need to improve on.
Very good, thank you. And I see here, it doesn't matter how bad the speech is, look for the positives. And I have to practice that. And Toastmasters has helped me in my personal life as well. Because I have 2 teenagers. One is a boy, one is a girl, 19 and 17. And if you do work around teenagers, you know what they're like. I mean, they do nothing right. They don't make their beds, they eat and they leave the dish the same place. And so you have so many things to criticize them about. But I had to learn to look what they're doing well and forget about the dish there, forget about the bed not made. I mean, of course, you deal with that. But look at the positive. You're doing well at school. I love the way you come home early from school or whatever it is that they're doing. Look for the positives and try to highlight those instead of just looking at what they're not doing well. So evaluation is something you can use in your personal lives as well. Thank you. And I think I'll end here because you have just about 22 seconds or they're about to finish. So again, I turn over to our Toastmaster of the evening.
Thank you very much, DTM Corville, for that informational and engaging session. I believe that I have learned a lot. As you mentioned, you don't know everything. It's always good to learn, and this session, I learned a lot. So at this time, I'd like to present you with a certificate of appreciation for such an engaging session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
At this time, I would like to turn over the virtual lectern to Toastmaster Daniel. Toastmaster Daniel.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster of the Day. Thank you for the job that you've done so far. I know on the agenda, it speaks about us having open reflections, and some of it was done in the last few minutes of our presentation. But if there's anyone who still has a burning takeaway that they would wish to share with our workshop this evening, I would invite you now to do so. Anything that you think is burning that you would want to share with the others, what you took away. For me, I liked when he presented our Distinguished Toastmaster Corville, when he spoke about whitewashing and blackwashing. I think that helps you to remember, because very often people tend to see things as black or white. And because we've heard of whitewashing more often, I think the blackwashing stood out for me in terms of the contrast. And so that is something that will stick with me this evening. I don't know if there's anyone else who wishes to share. I'd now invite you before the time runs out. If we do not have any other persons who wish to share their takeaways, I see there's one message in the chat. And this is another thing that we can do. As we have been speaking about evaluations and we've shared some of the highlights, we can also share our own commendations for this evening's presentation. I don't know if anyone would want to share at this time. I see our immediate past division director. She shared in the chat. It was a wonderful presentation, and she extended her gratitude to Distinguished Toastmaster Corville. Toastmaster Tamara Shaw, beautiful and timely presentation. Is there anyone else who wants to share on the mic on their takeaway or any commendations? The floor is open.
I think I want to just share something. I was giving an evaluation the other day for Portia, I'll mention it. And she said to me, she said, "Be gentle with me." Do you know that that softened me to make me feel better about giving the evaluation? Because I was nervous to give her evaluation because she's a wonderful speaker. So when she said, "Be gentle with me," I was like, oh, that loosened me up. So I just wanted to say that that was, the speaker can also be accommodating to the evaluator as well.
Thank you very much for sharing. And that reinforces one of the things that our facilitator shared. Sometimes we become afraid of evaluating persons who we perceive have been in the club longer than we have, or in Toastmasters in general. But they also might have their fears like anyone else. I see another person, Toastmaster Anetta Simon Williams. The workshop was very informative and enlightening, as I sometimes find that I'm very weak in my evaluation. I think at this time, I'd like to turn over to our division director to give closing remarks for what I think, and I think she will share this as well, has been a very informative training. Thank you very much. Over to you, Toast Division Director.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Please unmute, show your emojis, and let's give Distinguished Toastmaster Corville all the applause that he deserves. Emojis. Let's unmute.
Thank you, DTM Corville. You did an amazing job. Looking forward to your next presentation.
Yeah. I'll just say woot woot.
Excellent.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Much appreciated.
Awesome. So we've come to the end of yet another impactful workshop, which I am sure will enrich your Toastmasters experience moving forward. You now have everything that you need to become an impactful evaluator. Kudos to you all. The event could not have been possible without God's grace and the support of our esteemed presenter, Distinguished Toastmaster Corville. Again, we thank you for imparting your knowledge to us today. We are happy to see District Director Elka Price in our midst today. Your presence and support is always encouraging. To the role players who made today's event all possible, I extend my deepest thanks to you all. Toastmaster Michelle Pradell, or Toastmaster of the Day, Toastmaster Christine, or Logistics Manager, for stepping in and doing the invocation, or Assistant Division Director of Program Quality, Toastmaster Danielle Taylor Williams, who organized the session, Logistics Manager Christine, for making sure everything stayed on point, Public Relations Manager Sharianne for the videos, graphics before and after today's workshop, and even the backdrops that we are utilizing today. Most importantly, thank you to you, the audience, for attending and for being wonderful participants. Please look out for our next workshop, which will be at the end of October. Yes, we're having monthly workshops, and the topic is Mastering Table Topics. Another great session awaits. I wish you all the best as you continue your Sunday afternoon. Go out there and be great evaluators. Today's meeting is now adjourned. Good evening.
Bye-bye. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Great week ahead.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone.
Good everyone.
Good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good evening, everyone.